right, what's good, everybody? This is Life and Chat Podcast, episode number 18. Topics for today are avoiding. Okay, my bad about that. Topics for today are avoiding societal traps as well as just recognizing some societal standards that exist within today's society. If you're watching this right now, I appreciate you for stopping by. Make sure you leave a comment just so I can see who's in the podcast. I appreciate that. And we'll go ahead and get it started right now. All right. Give me 1 second. All right. So I want to preface with um these are my opinions. These are appreciate you for stopping by, KJ. These are my opinions and these are things that I've thought about very thoroughly. So these are, like I said, these are just my observations. I'm just gonna put that out there. These are not facts. These are just what I see. Okay. All right. So that being said, I would like to start the when talking about society in general. I want to go ahead and start off with a little bit of my view of the way I see society and the way I've seen society for a little bit now. Appreciate you for stopping by, Bree. Um, so okay, so I'm trying to figure out the perfect way to start this. So, hmm. Okay, so when it comes to the way society is moving, I got thinking. Okay, hey, there you go, KJ. There you go. Okay, so my perception is that there is a group of people that have an immense have like they have a lot of money. They're very wealthy and they're very powerful, right? And they are what I would call in control of the masses. They influence the masses in many different ways, and they not only do they influence the masses, they also have hidden agendas, and I will get into those very shortly. But that's how I want to start it off, just so you can kind of get my perspective before I start. So, with that being said, I'll go ahead and start off with the traps that I feel um, that I feel are really prevalent within society. So, for the first one, I want to talk about um, some of the traps that they have are going to be. I'll start off with this one because this is one of my favorite ones to talk about. I talked about it on a previous podcast before, and that is the 9 to 5 job trap. So, with that being said, we're we are all brought up with the school system, and I feel like the school system is made so we can be workers, and that's when it was first invented, when school was first invented, that's what it was for, was to create efficient workers, assembly workers specifically, but workers nonetheless. So, and if you notice anything about the school system, it really hasn't changed very much since, like, the structure is very much the same as it was, let's just say, 50 years ago, right? So with that being said, they're creating society's trying to create workers, and obviously, if you are conscious of society, you realize that it's not all just workers. There's a lot of different avenues nowadays, as well as there's a lot of different routes that you can go that I would say you should go. But yeah, I feel like that's a trap. So with that being said, I'll break it down why it's a trap. So let's just say you're 18, you get out of school, you just graduated, and you want to move out of your parents' house. So the only way to move out of your parents' house is to get a full time job, right? So you get a full time job, and now you're trying to move out. So you have the money, you're ready to move out, you move out, and now the only way to live in your apartment is if you work. So now you are 1000% obligated to work. You're pressured to work. And when you're pressured to work, you don't have much time. And when you don't have much time, so basically, you work your ass off, you get an apartment, right? After you get the apartment, you go to work to get money to spend it on the apartment. And you're spending a lot of time away from the apartment that you're spending so much of your money on, right? And like I said, you are just obligated to work now. And with that being said, you put yourself in a position that if you're trying to create wealth, you are trapped. For the most part, I would say majority of people in society should be trying to create wealth. And with that being said, you cannot do that because you don't have enough time to develop the skills or get a trade that's going to allow you to have more money than the job that you're working, the 9 to 5 job. Let's just say that, for example, right? So you're trapped. That is why I've carefully taken steps towards avoiding that trap because I recognize that it exists. I recognize a lot of people fall into that trap, and that is just the way it is, right? All right. So that being said, like I said, I had mentioned the school system being a trap in its own. Also, with the school system, so I just got out of high school a few years ago, and one thing I have observed with the way I was brought up within school, right, is they really pushed college. College was the thing that they try to prepare everybody for. They were trying to prepare them with tests, certain types of tests that are going to be um, more college like, or they had classes that were college classes and stuff like that. So they're basically preparing us for that. They had people come into the class, give an entire presentation over the importance of college and how to kind of get situated with your college situation, right? So I feel like that's a trap as well because the highest amount of debt is the student loan debt that we have, which is I don't know, it's trillions of dollars, right? Which they're trying to cut back now because they recognize that it was a problem that is hindering a lot of people, which is why you see Joe Biden talk about um, trying to pay for some of the student loan debt, right? Whatever. So, like I said, it's something that's pushed onto us, and if you don't know any better, you probably went to college or are going to college right now. And if you don't have everything lined up, if college is not paid for, then that means you are thousands of dollars in debt, and that excludes your living situation. That excludes everything. That's just all the books that you need to buy and all paying for all the classes and stuff like that, right? So that is a trap within itself because that is the only debt that we're allowed to go deep into in society. Like you're not allowed to go that much into debt, like in any other circumstance besides the school debt, which is ridiculous. Like I said, if you were 18 years old and you want to start up a business, let's just say you wanted, we'll just give this a very what is the word I'm looking for? We'll say it's average number, right? Let's just say you go to college and you're spending $20,000, right? Now you go to the bank and say, hey, I want to get a loan out to go to college. They'll be like, okay. Or you can say, I want a $20,000 loan to start up a business. They'll be like, hell no. Why is that? That right there is interesting for sure because they'll allow you to go into debt for school, which doesn't even have 100% guaranteed to make the money back. But when it comes to starting a business, they're like, hell no. Why would I ever give you a loan to start up a business? So that's just something that I see, right? So you can kind of take that as it is, but that is what I would deem a trap because they make exceptions for certain situations, and uh, it's not nothing's guaranteed within college. Like so, you still got to put the work in after you put the work in, pretty much. Okay. So another thing is you gotta question some of the standards that lies within society, and that is one of them that everyone should go to college. When in reality, my views in college, I'll make it short. I don't believe everyone should go to college. I feel like college is only made for a select group amount of people, um, like doctors, lawyers. There's certain jobs that need it, right? But I definitely don't think that it's a one size fits all solution like it's marketed within society. Society is saying, and even our grandparents have been brainwashed to push college on us as well because that was like literally the only way that they were going to make it in life is if they went to college back in their days. Which, if you've talked to older people, they really are not in tune with the different avenues that we have open today. But that's a whole other thing right there. But you definitely got to question some of the things that are just made for the path that the average person is going towards. Let me read a comment real quick. Champion inspire me, bruh. Ring how I should publish my car detailing business to make it pop off and make it out there. Okay. Yeah, we can talk about that a little bit later. How should I? Yeah, you definitely need to focus a lot on marketing. That's the main thing. The branding and the marketing aspect of that um, is definitely going to be key when it comes to that. That's what I would say personally. All right, but getting back into it, I want to talk about more of the hidden agenda because I feel like this is going to be one of the main things that I talk about today. And if you're in here right now, I appreciate you for stopping by. Like I said, make sure you leave a comment, just saying what's good or also about something that I'm talking about today. So, the hidden agenda. So, like I said, I mentioned earlier in the podcast, there is a group of people that influence the masses. And with that being said, they have hidden agenda. Um, they have a hidden agenda, right? Some of these things include um, just making us average. They are very there's nothing that's really like they have things that are available if people were to utilize that, but if you are a person that falls into a lot of the traps of society, this one trap of just this one hidden agenda of just being average, you would fall right into that very easily if you are not conscious of of the existence of it. You would easily fall into it. Another one of these things is I also feel like they want us to be less smart than what we could be. So obviously we have the internet, which people nowadays are definitely smarter than they ever were. Obviously, right? Because we have resources that are available to us that have never been available to us before. But I just feel like when I say they're trying to make us less smart, there's other ways that they're attacking our intelligence, and those kind of get those can kind of go into conspiracy theories, but I'm not going to get really into those. But I just feel like they have an agenda to make us less smart. Forgot, do you invest in I do not. To answer your question, KJ, I do not. I've done a lot of research into it, but I'm developing my skills in order to have. I'm developing my skills so I can have a high income skill, and then I can invest. But if you invest and you have no high income skill, then in my opinion, you are investing a small amount of money and you're playing the very long game, which I wouldn't recommend for everybody. But getting back into what I was saying, another thing that's within the hidden agenda of these people is the over sexualization of the minds of the young. I feel like through what I've seen in society is you have sex is becoming something that's so like not okay, but popularized in a way. Obviously, I mean, it's been popularized, but I just feel like you learn about it at an earlier age than maybe you would have. You're introduced to it different ways, and obviously, sex sells, so it's very prevalent within society, and it's really hard for you to avoid it if you're growing up nowadays. It's really hard for you to avoid it. You can't make it past the age of 10 without hearing a bunch about it. That's just my opinion, though. But with that being said, I just feel like some of these things that really play into that is you see the younger women, right? They wear makeup. Women nowadays are starting to wear makeup at an earlier age and dressing a certain way at an earlier age than they ever have been before. They feel like they're kind of forced to grow up to play that role or to look that certain way. So I feel like with that being said, like kind of goes back to the sexualization of the minds of the young. That's something that's very prevalent. And also with men, obviously, um, men are introduced to things like they're introduced to explicit content at a very young age. I'll say that. And some would say that's okay, but I don't think that's okay. That's not good. That's not good for the young minds because the young minds are very impressionable. And if you are taking something that is which is damn near a drug, which I would consider it a drug because it pretty much does the same thing a drug does in the brain. Um, you're giving them, like I said, if you're impressionable and you give them a thing that's going to trigger things in their brain that's going to be the equivalent to a drug, then you're not really leading them towards the path that they should be going because they are young still. So their innocence is definitely being more and more diminished as the days go on. That's what I will say. Another thing that is really part of their hidden agenda is the excessive drug use and the use of stimulants that's just becoming super okay and casual within society. Um, I feel like it's very, very okay in society to have a nick addiction or to have a caffeine addiction. And obviously, it doesn't really do much to you, but it does a whole lot to you. And it's to the point where, like I said, you take away you take away a little cancer stick, or you take away caffeine from a person, and they become an entirely different person, and they become so dependent on that they, when you talk to them, they literally are like a damn crack addict, which is so crazy. And that's okay. That's okay for them to go to their vices of caffeine. There's people that can't even exist in this world without a cup of coffee or an energy drink throughout the day, or a few of them, matter of fact. And I think that's, in my opinion, that's pathetic, because you are training your body to really rely on something, and when you don't have it, you become more irritable, you become less functioning, and it's a terrible downward spiral from there, pretty much. Same thing with drugs. Obviously, you see rappers and stuff like that talk about drugs all the time. That's another thing that kind of goes into it. I can kind of be hypocritical because I still listen to that type of music, anyways. But it's something that's definitely. I don't think it's 100% the rappers. I feel like it's also their upbringing, which I do feel is still influenced by the people that control everything. So that's just my opinion. Um, and another thing is, I feel like there's another hidden agenda to have conformity within a lot of different areas in life. They want people to be the same. This is just through my perception. I also read a book about it. It's called Brave New World. I read it in my senior year of high school, and I've seen a lot of these similar things that are going on within society. I've seen it happen within that book. So conformity, basically, conformity is just putting people, a group of people, on the same type of ideologies or on the same type of opinions. And there's people that have controversial opinions or maybe topics that the world should talk about more, and they're getting shut down because of cancel culture and stuff like that. So um, the black sheeps are killed. Let's just say that. That's the way I see it, and I feel like you need those. You need those within society, even if they're not 100% agreed to. You definitely need them. They're people. They're the people that push beyond what we know, and they're the people that also push society forward. So yeah. And another one of the hidden agendas that, being on my self development journey, I've been on it for roughly, what is it, almost, well, 4 years. I started at 17. So one of the things that I've seen through all the research that I've done, is the emasculation of men. I feel like it is not okay nowadays to be a masculine man. And of course, there's perks to being a masculine man. I just don't think that there are as many perks of being a masculine man. I feel like society kind of, the way society's going, it honestly looks down upon masculine men. You have things like, you have new inventions of words like toxic masculinity and things like that that have risen. And not to say that I don't think that toxic masculinity exists. I'm just saying that um, there's a lot of masculine traits that are so quick to be labeled toxic masculinity, when in reality, masculinity is something that is 1000% needed within society. And if we don't have it, then we suffer, because you make the men less weak, you make the families weaker, and you make society weaker as a whole. So that is something that definitely needs to be keyed on, right? When I'm gonna speak in general terms right now, right? Majority of women are attracted to masculine men. So if you have men becoming less masculine, you have women that have no choice but to go for super masculine men, and that's the only way that the family life's going to have some structure, and that's the only way that society is going to keep on running, is on the backbone of masculinity. If anyone thinks the world can exist without masculinity, show me a country, show me a society, show me a world that exists without the backbone of masculinity. Go ahead and show me that, because you really cannot, because it's never existed. It's never existed, and there's a reason for it to have never existed. It's as simple as that. With that being said, I've got through majority of what I wanted to talk about. Or actually, one more thing. This is another standard that I would say within society that definitely needs to be questioned by the masses. Is why the hell is fitness not a bigger thing, right? This country struggles with obesity to this day. It's one of the biggest killers of men and women within the world nowadays, or at least within the United States, right? I'm speaking for the United States, right? So why the hell is fitness not a priority? Why is it not a damn near a requirement? It helps every single aspect of your life, but yet it's not as pushed. It's not as pressured. There's other things that are pressured and pushed onto the people that don't benefit them as much as if you were to push fitness onto them. And it's just not a priority. It's not a priority, and there is there's movements nowadays that definitely promote obesity and things like that, right? So, for example, right, you see let's just say you have a bigger sized woman, right? Instead of saying, hey, you know what, you're living a life that is less than desirable, they say, love your curves. They say, you go, girl, embrace your body, right? When in reality, she's overweight. And if you're overweight, nobody wants to be overweight. Let's keep it 1,000, right? Nobody wants to be overweight. So don't embrace somebody and don't you don't embrace somebody for being overweight. That's ridiculous. If you're living in 2022 right now, it is not okay to be fat. There's too many resources out there. Get off your lazy ass and get in the gym. And that might offend some people, but quite frankly, I don't care. If you are fat in 2022, get in the gym. Make some changes within your diet. It is 1,000% needed because if you don't have the element of fitness, you are lacking in life. You will have a shorter lifespan if you do not implement the habit of fitness and taking care of your body. And yet, it's so okay in society to not have that. As a woman at least, right? If you're a man and you're overweight in 2022, society does not care for you at all. Women don't care for you. Society doesn't care for you. Nobody feels bad for you except yourself, right? No one feels bad for you. If you're a woman, that is a different story. But if you're a man, no one cares for you, and you have to make the decision. You're the only person that cares for you. So you need to make the adjustments. I'm gonna read some comments real quick. I feel like fitness isn't big enough because people try to do it and they fall off and they go back to eating unhealthier foods because it's easier to them. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, humans are addicted to taking the path of least resistance, and that just happens to be the path of least resistance and the most dopamine. So they go for that. They're therefore weakening society as a whole. The kind of things I talked about earlier, but yeah. But if you get on that grind and keep up the game for months and years, then the results will come, and it is worth it on God for sure, 100%. I agree with you. But like I said, it's it's not pushed enough. There's plenty of other movements that are pushed that are cared for more. When in reality, fitness should be cared and prioritized way more than majority of the things that are pushed nowadays. But that's just my opinion, right? Like I said, reiterate one more time. It is not okay to be fat. It is not okay. It is not okay. All right. And another thing I want to talk about, it is a standard and it is also a trap, is, and it's also an observation of mine, right? It is okay to have a shorter attention span nowadays, and you have things that promote it, and you have social media platforms that insist on developing a shorter attention span. And I'm gonna if you're watching this, you're probably a victim of it. Honestly, you're probably a victim of it, and there's a difference between being a victim of it and not recognizing it, and there's a difference between being a victim of it and you're just existing within that victimization, pretty much. So I recognize it, and I try to take a step back from some of the things that um, lead up to that shorter attention span, or things that definitely don't benefit the lifestyle that I'm trying to live. Um, and some of these things, like for example, like I seen it today. My nephew, he's growing up in a world that is going to have a shorter attention span than any human species that's ever lived ever. If you click on a video and you're uninterested, you're gonna click on another video like literally within 2 seconds. That's all it takes. People get bored way quicker than they ever have, and they don't embrace being bored nowadays. They're looking. Everyone is looking for constant stimulation every day until they go to sleep. And people even get their sleep schedule messed up because they are continuing to abuse the stimulation that is so easily accessible nowadays. So that's just my perception, but that is something that I see, and especially that's going to affect it's going to affect society for damn sure. There's going to be some downfalls, like the conversations are not going to be as thorough and thought out in the future. With that being said, you're going to have less social skills within the kids, and you're going to have more friends that are going to be electronic than they are going to be real. So that's just the way I see it. And honestly, they're going to be incapable of even having the conversations because their mind's going to wander off, and it's going to cause, in my opinion, I feel like this is also going to cause more mental health issues, in my opinion. So that kind of goes hand in hand with social media in general, the rise of um, mental health problems. But I definitely think that's going to be a contributing factor that plays a big role, and that's playing a bigger role than we believe right now um, when it comes to talking about the future generations. But if you get, I'm like, okay, that's just another comment. Okay. I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Like I said, if you are in here right now, please leave a comment so I can see who's in the chat. If you have any specific questions regarding any of the things I'm talking about, or you would like to make a comment on some of the things that I'm talking about, yeah, just go ahead and leave it in the comments, and then I'll go ahead and read it. But yeah, that is majority of what I'm going to talk about today. There's one more trap that kind of goes hand in hand with the over sexualization of the younger minds that I kind of talked about earlier. Um, but yeah, like I said, I'll get into that right now. I'll wait for a few comments though. All right. By the way, shout out to the Suns because I know you see that sticker right there. All right, appreciate you guys for stopping by though. All right, I'll just get into it right now. I'll just get it over quickly. So how do I want to go with this, right? So going back to the topic of over sexualizations within the minds of the young, right? One of the habits that is quickly picked up on when looking at explicit content, whether it's videos, pictures, whatever, is the what is it? What do I like to call it? The act of masturbation becomes a bigger factor that takes over the young. I'll read that question in a second. But basically, when you have things like masturbation within society, right? It is a part of the emasculation of men, right? And because men don't know how to value the life energy that they have and that they possess, and they abuse it, and it leads to a degenerate lifestyle, and it's one step closer to the average life, through my perception. And honestly, in my opinion, it's self-sabotaging because it's an addiction, and just like all addictions, they need to be fed, and it's a negative counter loop that keeps going on and on and on and on from there. And it leads to social anxiety. It leads to other things. Um, but yeah, that's just my perception. I'm gonna read this comment real quick. I just gotta say something real quick. The Suns are on one, and I'm a Bulls fan. We lost, but the Suns winning though. Yeah, Bulls. I think that they just got eliminated today, actually. So rest in peace to the Bulls. But better luck next season, fellas. You need to have healthy. You need to have a healthy team next season. I feel like explicit websites and social media affect our social skills, which is why some can't get women because they see in a screen and they can't get exactly. That is exactly what I was talking about. It leads to social anxiety, is what I was talking about, right? And it it leads to the things that I was talking about on my last podcast, which is uh, if you see women in that way, you're gonna have expectations of them that they're going to be unconscious of, and on top of that, you're going to see men put women on pedestals, which leads to simps, which leads to emasculation, which is a negative counter loop that I talked about already. So if you're picking up with what I'm saying, you see kind of where it's going. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. GDP was good. GDP. Appreciate you for stopping by. I'm gonna go over everything that I just talked about again, just in case there's new viewers, or just to really hammer home the points that I wanted to make in general. But yeah, there's a lot of things that within all these topics as well. I will have another podcast with someone else or a group of people, and it also leads to depression. Exactly. So all these things that I talked about in this podcast, as well as the last podcast, I will have a person or a few people come on the podcast to talk about those things because I want to get different insights, and I want to give you guys different insights as well. And it's just good to get just different input from different people. So I definitely want to make sure that's a priority. And these last two podcasts that I have are some of the more interesting things that I have yet to talk about on the podcast. So definitely wanted to eventually move into these realms. But yeah, super big interest of mine. So definitely glad that I got into it. But yeah, kind of going over the things again. So avoiding some of the traps within society. Bring. She's actually coming on Friday. I just found out today. Bree will be back Friday. KJ, just let you know. She will be on with her friend hopefully, and so yeah, that'll be a good podcast. And Anthony will be back. He'll probably be back next week. I don't know. I'm trying to get our schedules lined up, but he should be back for sure next week. I'm not too sure if it's Wednesday or Friday, but he'll be back next week for damn sure. Um, but yeah, going back to what I was saying, so there's traps within society that are laid out, and um, it's definitely very easy for people to step into it because it's pushed onto them. Some of these things include the 9 to 5 job trap, which I kind of went over earlier. It creates it's creating workers, right? And it all stems from the school system that is also a what I would deem a trap within society. Just because it, like I said, it creates workers. It doesn't create anybody that's wants to live more than an average life. It doesn't promote anything that is super relevant within society today. There is a few classes that are definitely good. I'm not gonna bash school completely, right? There's a few classes that definitely bring out of school value, but there's also going to be plenty of useless. When I mean useless things you learn in school, which I don't understand. And I'm getting off on a little tangent on this, but I just want to make this a point, right? I was helping my little brother with homework the other day, right? And when I was helping him, I realized like he's whatever he's doing, it's useless. And I told him, I said, you know, the only time that I actually used these things that you're learning right now in my life is when I'm helping you. And when I'm not helping you, I am not using anything that I learned. So yeah, he should be thankful that I went to school, right? But I'm not thankful that I went to school to learn those things that have no real world application whatsoever. Yeah, it is what it is. But like I said, school system has not really changed within the last, like, let's just say 50 years, right? There's still very similar things. Some of the topics are a little bit different. Some of the classes are added and are new, but for the most part, the structure is still the damn exact same. And that leads into another trap, which is college. College, obviously, there's plenty of college debt, and I'm sure pretty much everybody watching this has heard of the trillions of dollars of debt that is the student debt. Um, but yeah, and like I said, after college, you are pushed to get a full time job and move out, right? And when you move out, you work your full time job. You finally move out. After you move out, you have to go back to your job to make money to pay for the apartment that you have, or pay for whatever your living situation, and you'll never have enough time to actually build real wealth. And that is, I consider it a trap because if you're trying to build wealth in this lifetime, which I feel like everyone watching this should be on the path to try to build wealth at one point in their life, um, school could have a lot more useful classes. Yeah, for damn sure, for damn sure. Um, but yeah, those three I feel like really line up: the school system, college, as well as the 9 to 5 job trap. Those all line up as traps that are within society today. Some of them are avoidable, some of them aren't, but recognize that they exist at the very least. Another trap is, um, I guess you could say obesity or just not being in shape. I would say that's another trap. Fitness is not really pushed or a priority within today's society, and it definitely should be, especially when obesity is one of the things that is the biggest killers within the men and women in society right now. So I think it's Like I said, I think it's ridiculous that fitness is not a bigger priority. There's things that are 1000% more prioritized and more marketed to people, and it just doesn't make any sense for something that can expand your longevity of your entire life and not to be prioritized within people. Like, I want to say over 50% of people in the United States are obese, which is fucking ridiculous in my opinion. But yeah, another one of these traps is I guess you can say social media or just the promotion of having a shorter attention span, like apps like TikTok, Shorts, Reels, whatever, Stories, whatever. Those are quick dopamine hits that you can get back to 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 back, and so forth. So those are some of the traps within society. Um, Another thing is the another hidden agenda. So I talked about in the beginning of the podcast. If you're watching this and you're newer, I won't say newer, but you just started watching recently. One of the things I talked about is to preface this entire podcast is I feel like there's people of high power and wealth that influence the masses, or at the very least, steer them in an intentional direction. So, with that being said, they have a hidden agenda. Some of their things on their hidden agenda is they want us to be more average. They want us to be less smart. There's some of the things that I mentioned kind of lead into the average or lead into becoming less smart. Another thing is um, another hidden agenda is to over sexualize the minds of the young. Um, like I said, women or let's just say girls, ages like I don't know, like 12, they are starting to dress a certain way because they realize that it gets a lot of attention on social media, so they want to become that. They start wearing makeup at an earlier age, so they can become more um, beautiful in the face of society, and they're very from a young age very much pushed to grow up a lot faster than they were. Let's just say I don't know, it's like 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. It's going it's crazy the way the way it's going and the way it has been going. But and then with the young boys, you have explicit content that I'm not gonna mention because I'm not trying to get um, desensitized or whatever. But you have things like explicit content that young boys consume at a very early age that leads into um, another degenerative habit, which is masturbation, which is so popularized within today's society when in reality it should be demonized because it's a degenerative activity. And with that being said, you see stats like this. I seen this one thing, right, and not to say that it doesn't exist, right, but I seen this stat, and this stat through the people that are really for masturbation. Let's just say as a man, right? Some of these things that some of these stats that they use are like, oh, if you masturbate like I don't know, like once a day, your the chances of you getting prostate cancer goes down significantly, right? It also goes down significantly if you just have sex. So just have sex, and that's just my opinion, right? That's just my opinion, right? But there's stats that come out, there's certain things that come out that are contributing to the degenerative lifestyle that is pressed on younger men at an earlier age. So that's just my opinion, as well as excessive drug use, as well as stimulant use, is definitely also pushed on society in general. Whether you have rappers talking about drugs or whether it's easier to get certain types of drugs from doctors nowadays, whether it's antidepressants or whatever, there's certain things like those that really contribute to um, the hidden agenda that is of the people that are higher up. Also, stimulants like, let's just say, nick addiction and caffeine addiction. Those are things that are so like popularized and okay in society when in reality they really shouldn't be. And you should definitely, if you have any of these, definitely second guess what the hell you're doing in life because there's a flaw. There's a fundamental flaw that you have. And yes, there's going to be demons there you need to face, but you're going to need to face them because if not, they're going to become bigger and harder to face. Um, like for example, people can't even function without coffee or energy drinks. If you're one of those people right now watching this and you rely on a stimulant like that, just so you can have your day. It's you are doing your body a disjustice for damn sure. I've seen it plenty and plenty of times, especially within the fitness industry. I used to work in the fitness industry, and I seen people around me literally having energy drinks every single day, few of them every single day, because that's what they needed in order to be up, or that's what they had convinced themselves that they needed in order to be up. When in reality, humans have been awake for a large percentage of their day for thousands of years without stimulants. It's crazy, right? Crazy, but it's true. Our bodies are made to fulfill that purpose. So the fact that you feel the need for something else outside of what you already have in order to function is ridiculous. And that's just my opinion, but I definitely have a lot of stuff that backs that up. But same with the nick addiction, right? You have an over dependence on some of these things, and it becomes harder and harder to get rid of. And when you try to get rid of it, it sucks you back in because now you have um, the dependency issues that is whether it's irritability, whether it's change of mood very very quickly. There's a bunch of things that really contribute to that obviously would not incline somebody to stop doing it. But if you know what's good for you, you know you got to do it. So do what you got to do. Another thing is, I feel like society also has a hidden agenda of conformity, just basically making everybody the same or have similar traits, have similar weaknesses. I feel like that's a trend right there as well. And with that being said, um, another part of the hidden agenda is the emasculation of men. Making men less masculine is an agenda that is, if you're observant within society, you definitely see what the hell I'm talking about. Um, yeah, terms like toxic masculinity that are coming to surface as of recently that have been created, popped out recently that really didn't exist, let's just say 10 years ago. Not to say that it doesn't exist. Of course, there's some aspects of masculinity that aren't ideal, but if you recognize what it takes to have a society in general, it is the backbone is masculinity. Stimulants to keep up with today's demands. Little do you know, GDP, that you do not need the stimulants in order to keep up with today's demands. You have just convinced yourself that you need the stimulants in order to keep up with today's demands. But in reality, you don't. You can find humans, whether they're made or whatever, they are able to function just fine without the stimulants of today. And if you think otherwise, you have been brainwashed to think otherwise. If you watch earlier in the podcast, I'll explain it. But yes, there's a lot of brainwashing that goes on, and that is one of them. Yeah, the emasculation of men, like I said, the backbone of society. If you get rid of the masculine men, there goes the family values. There goes society in general. There goes what is it called? There goes the structure. There goes the order within society. It turns all into chaos. Sugar, caffeine is the biggest drug. Think about how early in life and throughout life we consume these chemicals, especially caffeine from soda and etc. Exactly. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It is one of the biggest drugs, and the only reason it's not demonized like other drugs is because it helps benefit um, with keeping up with today's demands, like you had mentioned. That's the only reason why it's not an issue within society, because um, what is it? The capitalist structure. It helps because obviously you're more awake. If you're more awake, you can make more money. If you make more money, you probably work more. Things like that. So it kind of contributes to that. But um, to go back to what I was saying, like I said, the emasculation of men. You get rid of the masculine men, you're killing off the families, and when you kill off the families, it leads to um, a ruined society because life is not going to be able to function as well with less masculine men. And like I had mentioned earlier, if you think otherwise, if you think society can be ran without masculine men, show me a society, show me a community, show me something that suggests otherwise because you can't. It just never existed. And quite frankly, I don't think it can exist because without it, without masculine men, you're going to have other issues that come up that society is not going to be able to face because they do not have the presence that was made in order to fix those issues or to play that part within the way the structure is of the world. So, like I said, to go back what I was saying, right? All these things are my opinion. All these things have been researched very, very thoroughly. All these things have been observations that I've been taking years to make. So take it with a grain of salt, but definitely take it into consideration. That's for damn sure. Um, but yeah, those are some of the things I thought about for today. If you are in here right now, we have a few viewers in here. I appreciate you for stopping by. If you're in here, make sure to leave a comment just so I can see who's in here right now. If you have any comments regarding any things that I had mentioned or questions for my take in specific, make sure you leave a comment. I appreciate you guys. All right. All right. Appreciate you guys for stopping by, though. We got about 5 viewers in here, so it's been nice. It's been nice. Yeah, this podcast, like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you guys were in here, but I definitely want to have people on here just so I can give. I want to talk about similar topics that I talk about today, but I want to get another person's point of view of it. And I want to get actually a few people's point of view about it. I not only do I want to get like two people in here to talk about this specifically, but I also want to have maybe like two or three, four, maybe even more than that podcasts dedicated to these specific topics. The one that I talked about today and the one that I talked about on my last podcast. I definitely want to hone in on some of these topics because I feel like these conversations 100% need to be had, and it is definitely the input that people should be consuming, but sadly they aren't. So I think it's 100% necessary. So I will definitely have more podcasts regarding societal standards and the traps of today, as well as talking about the dating marketplace because a lot of people need help regarding the dating marketplace. Um, so yeah, I'll definitely be making more podcasts about that. All right. I will give it. Hmm, what time did I actually start the podcast? I'm gonna give it about 20 more minutes, and then I will go ahead and end it off just so you guys know. Like I said, if you're in here, make sure you leave a comment. No, I do not, KJ. Just answer that question. I don't. I don't. It's okay, man. It's okay. Like I said, hey, with all these things going on, man. Here's the thing, man. End of the day, work on yourself. Simple as that. Would I like a girl right now? For sure I would. But I would like one that comes into my life and only adds to it and doesn't take anything away. So there's that. I'm trying to think. That's good. Yeah, sure. Is it good? Sure. I really don't know what to say about that, but it is what it is, I guess. Um, but yeah, these were definitely some interesting topics, 100%. Like when I was thinking about the topics for today, these were definitely some things that I was like, man, I should already been talked about this, honestly. Especially with the amount of people that I've had on, I should have talked about these things already. One of these people I will talk about all these things with is Rudy. Just to let you guys know, Rudy and Anthony. I'll probably have them back on for another podcast in the next few weeks regarding these topics, whether it's together or whether it's separate. I definitely want to have the conversation with these two people because um, I feel like there's a lot to learn from those point of views regarding some of these topics because I've personally had conversations regarding these topics with them before, and they have contributed to some of the viewpoints that I have, as well as they have their own individual spiel that they can go on that is definitely worth a listen for damn sure. Um, so yeah, definitely we'll get into it. And some of these things they probably don't even know about. So I feel like the emasculation of men is I feel like that's something that not a lot of people think that big of an issue. But like I said, for many reasons, it's a huge issue within society. But yeah, I got that idea. Just to let you guys know, if you're curious about that idea, I got it from um, hearing about this one guy named Stefan Ariano. He has this book called Hard Times Create Strong Men. He basically believes in this philosophy through plenty of observations and studies and history. Basically, strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men. So it's a continuous cycle that society's always went on. And right now, we are in the um, strong men create um, strong men create good times. Or actually, no, we're in the good times create weak men. So we're bound to have a hard time very soon. Whether it's a world war, whether it's another pandemic, there's something that's going to happen that I think is gonna have to toughen some people up because we're getting soft out here. We're getting soft out here, and some people agree that it maybe it is a good thing, but there's not that much benefit to it, honestly, through my perception. But if you're interested in that type of topics, definitely listen to his book. He's a little excessive with some of the things that he talks about, but I understand. I understand his opinions because they make sense, but they're just not people friendly. That's the way I'd say it. But he doesn't really care for people's opinions too much. But definitely an interesting topic that I learned about within the last few months. So um yeah, do you guys have any questions regarding anything that I talked about? Whether it's people that influence the masses, one of the hidden agendas, maybe one of the traps, or maybe one of the questioning one of the standards that are placed within society today. All right, all right. Yeah, because there's a whole lot that I talked about. A whole lot I talked about, man. I feel like I said, if you understand everything that I'm saying, and I explain it great enough for you to understand, I'm thankful for that. But if I didn't, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment because it's definitely needed. And if you're rewatching this, make sure you also leave a comment. Or if you have any questions about anything, make sure you leave a comment as well because I will definitely answer back to you. All right. Um. Yeah. There's definitely some good stuff though. Definitely some good stuff for sure. Give me 1 second. If you're man, I got 4 or 5 people in here for the last like 20 minutes. If you're in here, please leave a comment if you can. If you can't, then you can't. If you're watching this through my link that I sent and you can't log in or you don't want to log in, make sure you just go on the YouTube app and then click on the video again so you can leave comments, please. All right. All right, I'm trying to think. If you guys have also any other inputs regarding maybe a societal trap that you see that is prevalent within society, or better yet, um, a standard that you question yourself, also leave a comment regarding that because I feel like that can definitely add to the discussion when it comes to these topics. Just had an idea. I don't know if I'm gonna do it yet, but yeah, there's definitely a few more traps that I would say that I haven't talked about yet, but I'm just waiting for the right person to bring them out of me in the most passionate and enthusiastic way that I can. So yeah, there's definitely some other traps that definitely exist within society. But yeah, all these things that I talked about today are things that I've been thinking about for a while now, and like I said, my opinion's been formulated for the last I would say probably like 4 or 5 years. Um, and it's honestly crazy if you really think about some of these things that I talked about. Like it's crazy to see how many there's. you're a victim of at least one of these things. Like, be honest with yourself. Like, you're a victim of like one of these things at least. At the very least, probably like at the very least, probably two. Honestly, um, but it is what it is. You can't avoid the school system realistically, but and you want someone also say you can't really avoid the full time job permanently. You can't. Um, but yeah, I also want to have another podcast regarding my younger crowd, the people that are around my age, regarding some of the decisions that it takes when trying to level up within this stage in life, because leveling up within the stage of life is a little different than it was in the past. And even though you're trying to make similar steps, there's a different way to do the similar steps. So I will definitely go over that in another podcast. Money changes people either for the greed in power or in personality. Yeah, for sure. It definitely changes people for sure. Some people say it was good. Some people say it's bad. I don't feel like money doesn't equal to bad. I feel like that's another trap. That's a part of the trap as well. Now that I think about it, right? There's people that are poor that think money is evil when it's not. That is, you've been brainwashed to believe that money's not bad. Now, some people with money can do bad, but money doesn't make them bad. Money, one thing that's one of the thing that I learned about recently is, or I heard recently is, money just money pretty much just brings out more of whatever person you are. So if you are more of an evil person, you're just going to be more evil with money. If you are a good person, you're just going to use your money in more good ways. It pretty much just emphasizes a little bit more of the type of person or the quality of your character just a little bit more. So yeah, which I would say, like I said, is pretty accurate. I would say, because not all people with money are bad. That's for damn sure. If you think that, if you're convinced of that, brainwashed, instantly brainwashed. But yeah, I'll go over some of the other things just because I'm gonna wrap it up in about 10 minutes. So the traps for today. Society's traps include the school system. School system is one of the biggest traps that everyone has to go to. Um, it doesn't really do the most for you. It is 100% needed. But you have to go through that, and it creates workers, which the workers obviously eventually get into that 9 to 5 job trap, which is a cycle of the rat race. You are in a continuous cycle of paying for your living expenses, paying for your car expenses, and another trap. I'm gonna speak about this as well. One thing I forgot to mention, right? One another trap is buying a new car. Trap. That's a trap right there. That's just my opinion though, because it's a trap when it comes to trying to build wealth or to trying to get a little bit of success in this world. If you're buying a new car and you don't have the money to buy it all the way outright, you are trapped because now you are obligated to spend a certain amount of your money. Um, like I said, within, like I like to talk about earlier, right? These people, the decisions that you're trying to make right now at this kind of stage in life, whether trying to move out, whether it's trying to get a car, um, there's there's traps that are make these things a little bit easier. New cars are a waste of money because it depreciates off the lot. Exactly my point. Um, and you see, here's the thing: the way I'm talking about this right now, society is kind of fucked up because at the end of the day, used cars are actually more expensive now, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, it's an asset. It's not an asset rather. Um, it's what is it called? Damn, I learned about these topics fucking years ago. It's liability. Yes. Yeah. So it's a liability. So yeah, that's another trap getting a car because now you have, let's just say like $300. That is exclusively always going to be for that car that you're going to need. That's going to come out of your pocket instantly. After you work, gone. It's gone. Same with the living expenses. Like I said, if you don't have an abundance of money, but yet you have an apartment, you are obligated to do whatever job that you are at, and yeah, there's just almost no way of getting out of it. You have to literally continuously climb the job ladder all the damn time because you have no other time to develop any of the other skills or develop a trade that's going to give you more income because you just don't have the time for it because you're just trying to pay for the bare minimum of your life, which is the car and the housing for yourself. So those are traps. Another one is uh, the fitness industry. Well, not it's not a trap necessarily. Or rather the lack of the fitness industry within the mass media. There's a lot of conventions that people have nowadays um, that don't really promote the fitness industry. It's not a priority. It's not it's not a need within society. When in reality, it should be a need. It should be a need because, like I had mentioned a few times in this podcast, obesity is one of the biggest killers um, of the United States people. So if you don't promote something that's going to help benefit those people, then what the hell are you actually doing? That's just my opinion, though. Another one is the trap of today is the increasingly shorter attention span that you have. If you are able to watch an entire podcast, you have like a top 5% attention span, and it's true because majority of people like they're so addicted to just like seeing like 10-second clips, and they're just kind of going through it, and then the 3 hours goes by and they're still going through it. Like it's a terrible trap that is within society. Another trap is you can even say uh, drugs and stimulants. That's a trap in itself because now you become reliant to a thing that alters your brain, and you can't function the same without it. So I would say that's a trap because it is I won't say pushed on, but it almost is pushed on, honestly. Coffee. You see a lot of people drinking coffee, drinking energy drinks, and yeah, of course, the more people around you that do those things, the more inclined that you are to do it because you're convinced that it does the same thing. It can do the same thing for you that it does to other people around you. So I would say that's also a trap because those having a caffeine addiction, having um, a drug addiction, is going to have withdrawal of symptoms that are not going to be in your favor when it comes to trying to stop that. So that's a trap. Another one is, well, I wouldn't say a societal standard. I would say this is one of the societal standards that you need to question is it okay to have less masculine men within society? Is that okay? Is that going to be okay within the long term? Ask yourself that question. Like I said, my answer obviously is hell no because, like I mentioned before, masculinity is the backbone that society needs and will always need because without it, who the hell is going to do who the hell else is going to play the masculine role? No one. Um, and like I said, if you have less masculine men, who are women going to go with? They're going to go with the masculine men, and usually the most masculine men are going to be the higher earners, and it's going to contribute to the problems I talked about in the last podcast. So the more attractive men are going to be the top tier men. So the top tier men is going to have majority of the women, and now women have higher standards than they ever have had before. So it's a very, very interesting thing. And like I said, more or less masculine men you have, you're killing off the family, and when you kill off the family, society is ruined. And there goes another thing in society. So there's that. Like I said, I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Those are some of the things that I talked about. If any of those things have interested you, like I said, I would definitely rewatch this podcast. There's a lot of topics that I went over in detail. But yeah, I'm about to end it off in 5 minutes. If you're in here right now and you made it in, I appreciate you for stopping by. Also, leave a comment regarding some of the topics that I had mentioned as well. Here's a question: is there such thing as toxic masculinity? I am not sure, and I kind of went over that a little bit earlier, but um, I will say that there are elements of masculinity that are less than ideal, like like hyperaggression. That's not technically needed within society nowadays. Is it something that has existed before and it was needed? Like I said, if you're trying to kill a fucking bear, then yeah, hell yeah, aggression is fucking needed because you need to kill that damn bear because you need to defend your family. But nowadays, I don't think that's. I would say personally, aggression, hyper aggression is what I would define as toxic masculinity. Um, there's some other people that talk about. There's other people in society that talk about toxic masculinity that are completely don't know what the fuck they're talking about. In my opinion, some women say that they like simps. That's the biggest fucking cap of the day. Cap of the day, right there, KJ. Women don't like simps. They like the things that simps give them. They don't like the person. They like the concept. They don't like simps, but they are calling. Wait, but they are they calling or nah? Because my friend's girl likes him and he's a simp. He be spending racks of money, bruh. Exactly. You need to have him watch the damn podcast. Fucking have him watch the last podcast because he needs that shit more than anybody. This is the reason I'm making some of these pieces of content is because it's 1,000% needed. Yeah, simps are terrible. If you're watching this, if you like I said, send this to him. If you're watching this, man, stop being a damn simp, man. Sick of you, man. You're ruining society, man. I think toxic masculinity is real fresh and Fit talks about it. Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. They're fun. They're funny guys over there. They're funny guys over there. Like I said, there's elements of masculinity that are toxic, but I just don't think you can't just the way they label toxic masculinity nowadays is ridiculous because it's fucking ridiculous in my opinion. I'm saying it to like I said, hey man, you're ruining fucking society right now, my guy. You are ruining it. You're ruining the chances for every other guy because you're being a simp. But yeah, that is the cap of the day. Some women say they like simps. Cap of the day, fellas. There's that. Actually, matter of fact, I got you right here. I got you right here, dog. I got you right here. If a woman ever comes up to you, right, and they say they like simps, get him with this.
Stop the cap.
Ain't no fucking way. You don't like simps. You don't like simps. Don't even say that. It's ridiculous. Like I said, they like to utilize simps. They don't even see simps as people. They see them as resources. They see them as attention. They see them as other things that aren't people. It's like, for example, like some men see women as literally pieces of meat. It's the same thing. It is literally the same thing. Sad as hell, but it's true. Well, no, here's the thing. I got the sound effects. I've been had the sound effects if that's what you're talking about. Like this one right here. Yeah, and I've been had the sound effects, man. Come on, I had to add them, man. I had to add them. If there's any, also with the sound effects, I have like 64 available sound effects that I can use, or slots that I can use rather. If you have any specific sound effects that you want to hear on the podcast, let me know. And if I think it's good enough, I'll add it onto the podcast. But yeah, we definitely added a few more. But yeah, I'm about to end it off here soon. So I appreciate you guys for stopping by and watching this podcast. Um, like I said, if you're watching the podcast, make sure you leave a comment regarding some of the things that I talked about because there's a whole lot that I talked about. And very shortly, I will be having very shortly, I will be having people on the podcast talking about the last two topics that I talked about on was it last Friday or Saturday technically. And this podcast, I will definitely. Ooh, I might have to add that one. That'd be funny. Um, but yeah, I'll be having people that are going to be discussing similar topics that I talked about in the last two podcasts. Those are some of the most favorite topics that I've talked about so far. So yeah, I'll definitely have more people on. Also, just to let you guys know, I'll be having my sister Bree back on the podcast. She was a highly requested guest to be back on the podcast, so she'll be on, and she will also bring her friend Jada along as well. So I'm looking forward to that. If you also have any specific things that you want us to talk about, because it'll be me and two other girls, make sure you once the podcast go live on Friday at 7, make sure you leave a comment regarding some of the topics that you want us to talk about. But other than that, like I said, I appreciate you guys for stopping by, and until the next podcast, like I said, it'll be Friday at 7, so stay tuned in for that.